Forget the Hollywood fantasies of grand prehistoric battles, heroic sword clashes, or stirring speeches before a charge. The reality was far more chilling, a calculated brutality unlike anything seen on screen. Prepare to have your assumptions shattered, for what we are about to uncover will redefine our understanding of early human nature. Were they peaceful hunter-gatherers, living in idyllic harmony? Or were they capable of systematic, organized violence that would make modern warfare pale in comparison? Today, we delve into the raw archaeological evidence, venturing into the very heart of what truly transpired when our ancestors waged war. The narrative of prehistoric conflict begins not with bronze or iron, but with sharpened sticks and a deadly precision that carved the path for one human species to survive, while others vanished forever. Our journey into this ancient darkness first leads us to the caves of Spain, where archaeologists unearthed a truly disturbing secret. 400,000 years ago, long before the emergence of anatomically modern humans, an act of lethal interpersonal violence occurred. The earliest ever recorded in hominin history. Cranium 17, discovered at Simo de los What bears the silent testimony: 2 distinct depression fractures on its frontal bone. Forensic analysis paints a grim picture. These wounds were inflicted by the same object in 2 separate strikes, pointing to a deliberate intention to kill in a face-to-face confrontation. But this was individual violence. A more profound and haunting question lingered, tormenting archaeologists. When did humans first unite in groups with the express purpose of annihilating other groups? The answer, when it came, arose from an unexpected locale, the sun-baked shores of an ancient Kenyan lake. Their researchers unearthed humanity's darkest secret. In 2012, near Lake Turkana, archaeologists made a discovery that would fundamentally alter our understanding of human nature itself. Scattered across a desolate landscape lay the remains of 27 individuals, all victims of violent death approximately 10,000 years ago. This was no mere archaeological site. It was a crime scene, perfectly preserved by time. Dr. Marta Miras O.N. Lar of Cambridge University spearheaded the investigation, her findings sending shockwaves through the archaeological community. As she revealed in the journal Nature, the deaths at Natarok served as irrefutable evidence of the ancient origins of intergroup violence and warfare. These human remains chronicle the intentional slaughter of a small band of foragers left without proper burial, offering unparalleled insight into warfare as a part of prehistoric hunter-gatherer relations. Yet, the true horror of this discovery wasn't simply the violence itself, but the identities of the victims and the brutal manner of their demise. Among the 27, 8 were women and 6 were children, most under the tender age of 6. Of the 12 relatively complete skeletons, 10 bore unmistakable marks of a violent end. Skulls and cheekbones shattered by blunt force trauma, broken hands and ribs, arrows, piercing necks, and stone projectile tips still embedded in the skulls and chests of 2 men. Perhaps most chilling of all, for individuals, including a pregnant woman in her final trimester, appear to have been bound when they met their end. Professor Robert Foley, another member of the research team, somberly reflected on their findings, stating, "It is in our biology to be aggressive and lethal, just as it is to be deeply caring and loving." A lot of what we understand about human evolutionary biology suggests these are 2 sides of the same coin. This momentous discovery at Netark stands as the earliest scientifically dated evidence of organized warfare among nomadic hunters. It shattered a long-held archaeological dogma that warfare only arose with the advent of settled agricultural societies who had land and resources to fight over. 10 millennia ago, this region was not the barren expanse we see today, but a lush, fertile lakeside teeming with fish, game, and edible plants. These people were not fighting over scarcity, they were living in abundance. The attackers wielded weapons not typically used for hunting or fishing. Multiple club sizes hinted at coordinated planning, and the presence of obsidian projectiles suggested the assailants journeyed from elsewhere with the express purpose of carrying out this assault. Dr. Miraz Owenlar underscored the deliberate nature of the attack, noting the use of at least 2 club sizes, indicating multiple attackers. Despite the compelling evidence, this discovery remains a subject of intense debate within the archaeological community. Not all scientists subscribe to the massacre interpretation. Anthropologist Christopher Stoyanowski and his colleagues, in a response published in the same journal, challenged the findings. They argued that much of the supposed evidence of violence could have occurred after the bodies were buried due to natural processes rather than intentional trauma. Stoyanowski's team raised fundamental questions, suggesting that much of the perimortem trauma identified by Miraz Owenlar was more likely post-mortem. They also highlighted that the bodies at Netark were mostly articulated, spatially organized, and exhibited limited variation in body positioning, inconsistencies with well-documented massacre sites. This debate reveals a crucial aspect of prehistoric archaeology. We often work with mere fragments of evidence, striving to reconstruct events that unfolded millennia ago. The line between a massacre and a natural disaster can sometimes hinge on the interpretation of microscopic bone fractures. Regardless of the ongoing debate surrounding Netark as a definitive act of warfare, one truth remains undeniable. Our ancestors possessed weapon technology far more sophisticated than generally imagined. This is where the narrative truly fascinates. While Neanderthals clung to heavy, handheld spears, demanding close quarters engagement with their prey, early modern humans developed a revolutionary invention, the bow and arrow. Recent research from Grodmandrin in France has pushed back the evidence for archery in Europe to an astonishing 54,000 years ago. Dr. Lormetz and her team meticulously analyzed over 1,500 tiny stone points, making a remarkable discovery. Their study, published in Science Advances, unequivocally confirmed these tiny points were used as arrowheads. Metz explained it is the very small size and more precisely the small width of these armatures, of which some 30% weigh hardly more than a few grams, which allows us to exclude any other mode of ballistic propulsion for these very small weapons. Why does this revelation hold such weight in understanding prehistoric battles? The technological chasm between Neanderthals and modern humans was profound. Research in BBC Science Focus elucidated the significance. Modern humans migrating into Europe were armed with mechanically delivered projectile weapons like spear thrower, darts, or bows and arrows, granting them a superior hunting strategy and a decisive advantage over Neanderthals. Consider the practical implications. A Neanderthal hunter faced the peril of close-ranged combat with a dangerous mammoth or a rival human. A modern human, however, could dispatch their target from a distance with devastating accuracy. Dr. Metz emphasized the practical advantages. Bows and arrows are more accurate and easier to use, do not require as much strength, and can be carried on the back. In addition, these weapons can be used for a variety of hunting purposes, also for fishing. This wasn't merely about hunting, it was about the very essence of survival. The technological superiority of modern humans may unlock one of prehistory's greatest mysteries, the extinction of Neanderthals and our own survival. Archaeological data indicates that Neanderthals remained dependent on close contact weapons for approximately 150,000 years, demonstrating a remarkable technological stagnation. Meanwhile, modern humans rapidly innovated, developing not only bows and arrows, but also complex adhesives crafted from ochre, plant gum, and beeswax to securely attach their projectile points to shafts. The Grot-Mandrin study vividly illustrated this stark contrast. Neanderthals, contemporaries of these technologically advanced modern humans, failed to develop mechanically propelled weapons, instead continuing to use massive spear-shaped points that required thrusting or hand-throwing, necessitating close contact with their prey. The patterns of trauma found on Neanderthal skeletons tell a compelling story of dangerous, close-quarters living. They reveal frequent skull injuries consistent with blunt force impacts and high rates of what archaeologists call peri-fractures on their forearms, sustained while defending against blows. Modern human skeletons from the same period, however, displayed entirely different patterns, consistent with individuals who could kill from a distance. Dr. Metz offered a chilling perspective on the military applications used for combat. Bows and arrows have a clear advantage. You can easily kill more people while you're away from the enemy. As we advance through time into the Neolithic period, the evidence for organized conflict escalates in both abundance and complexity. The Talheim death pit in Germany, dating back to approximately 5,500 BC, unveils an unexpected facet of prehistoric warfare. Among the 34 skeletons in this mass burial, researchers discovered a puzzling pattern. No local women were among the deceased, yet immigrant women were present. This research suggests a grim motive for the conflict. The capture of women, rather than resources, may have been the primary